Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching and listening to Stuck in the Podcast. Welcome. This is a platform for entrepreneurs, innovators, creatives of African descent. Hear stories, ideas, experiences, and advice of breaking barriers. This episode is brought to you by our online store. Your support means a lot to us, right? So please visit stuckinthemiddlepodcast.com and shop Stuck in the Podcast merch. Thank you to all returning listeners and watchers. If it's your first time checking us out, welcome. Please just let us know again what you think about the show. Subscribe by clicking, the subscribe button at the bottom, so you get a ringer every week for every, new show we drop out. Follow us on all social platforms at SITM Podcast. To keep up again, with our daily blogs. Our weekly blogs rather, and our weekly episodes. And also shout out to Mambanya, shout out to Now You Know, shout out to Palm Wine Central, all podcasts powered by SITM Podcast. Today with me, I got a very, very, very dope individual, man. When people talk about entrepreneurship, man, this guy right here, his second was able to build, from 0 to 100, and we're gonna hear his story. It's none other than Myles Powell. He's the founder and CEO. He's the founder and CEO of 8 Miles, the best mac and cheese you've ever had. Ladies and gentlemen, again, help me welcome Myles Powell to Stuck in the Podcast. Welcome, sir. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm great, and it's a pleasure to be here. I love what you guys are doing.
Yes, sir.
And I love to share anything that I can, and hopefully encourage other folks to keep pushing.
Man, I see the shirt. I peeped the shirt. Unfortunately, I didn't bring my Stuck in the Middle, But let's get right into it, man. Who is Myles?
Sure. So Myles is an entrepreneur. I'm from Philly, and I was raised in a family of foodies. And so any kind of gathering that we had, whether it was small or large, food was always a centerpiece, and comfort food was the thing, right? And so, I grew up on soul food. I got Southern roots. And so I've always had a passion for food in general. And what happened over time is that built into a passion for cooking. I'm not a trained chef, but I always knew I wanted to do something that tied in food and business. And I decided to channel my love of comfort food into building 8 Miles, what it is today.
Right. Man, do you always get, like the movie 8 Miles to the name of your company? People always running like 8 miles.
All the time. Everyone always say, "You from Detroit?" And I said, "No, but I like the movie."
Where were you born? Where were you raised? Tell us a little bit about your come up. I know you're a civil engineer. How did you find yourself into, making mac and cheese, producing mac and cheese on this upscale level where you have them on Whole Foods now and all that? Speak a little bit about your childhood, bring us all the way to where you started 8 Miles, and we go from there.
Sure. So I had mentioned that I've always had a passion for food, but I am an engineer by trade. So I went to college to study civil engineering down at the University of Delaware, graduated, and decided, now it's time to go into the workforce as an engineer. And I'll say this, it was 2 days into my first full-time job. I was working out in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. 2 days in, I knew this wasn't the move. This is not where I wanted to be doing for the rest of my life, the corporate 9 to 5. And so right away I started working on the business idea, right? What am I going to do? And at that time, I was living alone, I didn't have a lot of connections out in Harrisburg, and I was pretty much isolated. And which really speaks to home these days, because a lot of us are isolated because of everything COVID related. And so back then I used that time to really develop and figure out what I want to do with my life. So I started cooking a lot. I actually ended up on the Food Network on a competition series called America's Best Cook. Didn't do so hot, but it was kind of an experience that kind of, pushed me forward. And so I was still working as an engineer, but at that time, the seeds were planted. I started figuring out, okay, I can do engineering, but I want to grow something better that's different aside from that, And so the next couple of years, I just kept perfecting recipes and testing things out. I had a food blog. And then I actually started 8 Miles as a barbecue sauce company. I made a line of barbecue sauces that were made with fruits, and that's what launched 8 Miles. And then a couple years into that, I decided, you know what? I love sauces. I love barbecue sauce, but I really love comfort food, and mac and cheese is always my staple. And I realized there's not a lot of great mac and cheeses you can buy in the grocery store that's frozen. It's all kind of pretty heavily processed. And I said, you
Mhm.
know what? I'm gonna do something better. I'm gonna do something that's actually real, the real deal, and put it on the shelves for people to buy. So I
Yeah.
kind of switched into mac and cheese.
I'm not just going to run past, oh, I make my own, sauce. Like that's something, I mean, you just wake up one morning and decided to do. Like, not anybody could just wake up and say, I want to make my own sauce. I can't just wake up and say, yo, I made my own sauce. Hey, here you go. How the hell did you make your own sauce, bro? How did you come up with a recipe saying, you know what? People is going to enjoy this. People is going to rock with this. And I could take this upscale. At what age did you even figure this out? Give us
So
that process.
yeah, for sure. So I mean, like I said, I used to love cooking. I still do, but I'm a big sauce fiend. Like it's all about the sauce for me. And so my senior year in college, I actually made my first barbecue sauce. I mean, I followed a recipe, but
Mhm.
it was real exciting. It was like, oh, this is amazing. I made it myself, and that stuck with me for a while. And then when I graduated, I'm in the kitchen a lot. Um, and like I said, I had a lot of downtime, so I'd watch the Food Network all night. I mean, like a Friday night when people are out, bar hopping and partying, I was in front of the TV for hours watching Food Network, just soaking it all in. And then I would the next day wake up, go to the grocery store, and test it out. Um, and so I started just figuring out, okay, what's like a unique barbecue sauce, something that's going to be amazing, but you don't see every day. And I just kept playing with it, man. It was just trial and error. I just mixed ingredients. It's a science experiment. You putting a bunch of ingredients in a
Yeah.
pot, stirring it up, heating it up,
Yeah.
and seeing what it tastes like. And of course, a couple of my early ones were pretty terrible, but it was like, all right, let me
You
build on
perfect it.
that. Yeah, exactly. And then you end up coming with something that's pretty good, and you roll with it.
How would you describe your style of culinary and cooking?
Definitely
Like your
exploratory.
brand?
Yeah, definitely. It's an exploratory brand. Not too crazy, but I like to put things to for people that they don't usually have.
Mm.
So for instance, my first barbecue sauce was a raspberry barbecue sauce that was made with raspberries. Then I came up with a pineapple buffalo sauce, which was made with pineapples, and then I had a mango sauce, which is made with mangoes.
Yeah.
And so I want people to see something that's unique, but it's amazing and something they wouldn't expect.
As a chef, right? What's the
Yeah.
hype about? What is this hype about organic versus non-organic food? Like, break it down for those who don't know the difference. Is this a hype? Is this something that people need to pay attention to? And I kind of went off a road right there real quick, but it's a podcast. What the heck?
Yeah, exactly. We talk about whatever. To be honest, this is only my personal opinion because I'm not a trained chef. I didn't actually study culinary arts. When it comes to organic versus non-organic, I'm not a really big proponent of you got to go organic, right? Because I think even on the organic side, number one, it's a certification. And so a lot of companies have to pay for a certification, and a lot of times those organic products still have harmful, additives in them. So I'm more of a fan of just clean, right? Not having the organic tag. When you make stuff, like my barbecue sauces had natural sugars, right? I didn't use refined sugars. I used honey.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's always a plus because it's transparent. I think organic is more of a label than it is something you should focus on. So,
Right.
But that's my opinion.
Speak to me a little bit about the size of your company, right? The dynamics of your company, the size, your employees, where you produce your products, all that stuff. What is it like? Take us a little bit about, paint us a mental picture of it.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit of a crazy person. So honestly, the company it's me. I've got part-time folks here and there, but from a day-to-day operations, it's a solo dolo operation. I've got production at night and everything else during the day, and I'm actually working another job on the construction side during the day too. So I'm wearing two hats at the same time at all times. I got two sides of my brain that kind of operate simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I always tell people, imagine you're in an office building, it's got 5 levels. I'm running up and down the levels all day. Like you got one level being HR, one finance, one operations. I just go up and down, back and forth all day, making sure I prioritize as I can. And it's stressful, but we've grown, which is nice. I'm in over 100 locations throughout the Northeast. Hoping to triple that by spring of next year, and kind of expand out west and down south. So yeah, this is like my dream. From the day I created the company, I said I want to have. I just imagine seeing 8 Miles name on a shelf and saying, "Wow, that's me." Like I actually did that, and also and I've had people help me along the way,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's on production, marketing, packaging, things like that. And we're going to be hiring full time really soon. But for now, it's a solo operation for the most part.
Okay. I mean, most companies like outsource production, right? For example,
Yep.
they'll say, okay, we're going to produce this in China, for example, or we're going to produce this
Yeah.
someplace else. Who makes this? You say it's homemade. And if you
Yep.
supply to, let's say, Whole Foods and Peapod, and all these other grind places, do you really make this yourself? Speak to us a little bit
Yeah.
about, the process. How is it made? How
Right.
is it
Right.
made? Some people might even say, like, I personally don't know what mac and cheese tastes like. For real. I really don't know. It's a lot of cheese for me. But I heard somebody say, man, just looking at it, from a picture, it looks a little bit watery and stuff like that. Like, take us through the process. What is real mac and cheese like? What is it supposed to look like? What is it supposed to taste like? How do you make it? How do you package it? How did it find themselves into Whole Food, Peapod, all that
Yeah.
stuff, man? Give us the blueprint, bro.
Yeah. So, I mean, from a real basic standpoint of mac and cheese is a simple product, right? It's noodles, cheese, and then a little seasoning too. Um, but it's all about the levels. So, like how much cheese you put to it, or how much cheese versus milk or cream. How much seasoning do you add so it's got some flavor to it too? Because if you take a pot and boil some noodles and throw in some shredded cheese, it's mac and cheese, but it's not. It's not really. It's not the hit, you know. So I spent about 2 years perfecting the recipe over time, because I just took a recipe that I made personally, and you have to scale it. When you got to scale it, things change, right? You go from making a pan in the oven to at one time I make almost 300 units. So I've got a giant, what's called a tilt skillet, and I got this big oar, and I'm like rowing a boat, and it's a big vat of
So I got them
cheese.
guns.
Yeah, exactly, from rolling cheese, man. So and I do that in the kitchen. So it's weird to think about, but almost every mac and cheese that's on the shelf that someone bought either at Whole Foods or they got it online touched these hands, because everything is done in house. We haven't outsourced yet because we're starting to grow. We're considering having an actual production staff on site to make the mac and cheese almost daily. But right now, it's me and maybe one other person here and there actually making the mac and cheese in hand. It's almost like doing it in your kitchen, just on a grander scale. And so once you make it, making it's like step one, right? You make it all, but then it's like how to get it to market. And there's a lot of different hurdles you got to go through. Aside from business formulation itself, you got things like you got to link up with someone that's going to be able to ship the mac and cheese to the stores. But then you got to get the stores to agree to bring it on. And then you get into a whole conversation about pricing. And it's funny because these are all things that I pretty much self-taught and learned through experience, right? So, because I went to grad school to get my MBA, and there was a class about entrepreneurship. And it was funny because as I was taking that class, I had just launched 8 Miles, so it lined up perfectly, right? Like I learned about how to perfect the business plan. But in terms of like my industry specific, there's no real blueprint. I can't go to a class and say how to become a consumer packaged good in the frozen section, right? It's just a lot of Google, a lot of talking to people in the industry, and just kind of pushing your way through it and learning along the way.
Tell us a little bit about Buffalo mac and cheese, your own very mac and cheese brand, and why is it different from any other box, mac and cheese box out there? Like how do you brand this, your own stuff, and how does this stand out from every other mac and cheese product out there?
For sure. So since I grew up eating homemade mac, I didn't really mess with the frozen or the box packs on the shelf, like your Kraft mac or your Amy's and folks like that, because that's not real mac and cheese, right? It's heavily processed cheese, and they've got their place in the market, right? They're really cheap, and it's a staple item people are used to. But me, knowing how I love homemade mac, I can't reverse and go back to the processed stuff. And so if I want the best of the mac and cheese on the shelf, I'm like, you know what? I can make that. So my mac and cheese, you put it in the microwave and you take it out and you eat it. It's like, man, people say it all the time. They go, it tastes like I made it out of my oven. And that's the reaction that I want. Because, as a people, as a society, we love convenience, right? That's why the frozen food aisle is so popular, because we love to be able to pop something in the microwave or oven real quick and boom, got a meal. But I think our generation especially, and a lot of other people too, is that we don't want to sacrifice quality for that anymore. Like we want something convenient, but we want it to taste good too. And that's the thing. Like because I enjoy eating as an experience, right? Like when I eat something, it's like it's not just to sustain to keep me going, it's like an event. Like I want to enjoy this time with my food. And so I want to make sure other folks can get that experience too when they eat the mac and cheese.
Right.
And so I got 3 flavors. I got a 3 cheese home style, which is your traditional baked mac and cheese. And then I've got a buffalo mac, which is a little bit different. I mentioned earlier how I like to get a little creative. I added a little bit of our buffalo sauce that's homemade in there too, so it gives it a little spice. And then also I got a barbecue mac that just came out, and that's our barbecue sauce that's infused in the mac and cheese to give it a little something extra too.
What is the process like, going into the market, for example, Whole Foods or Target, and advertising your products too, and say, I would like for you guys to carry my products. Keep in mind, right? Most people might not want to do this because if you're, for example, the FDA, you have to have some kind of go ahead, okay, yeah, your product is safe, to put that into the market because anybody can sue you. You know what I mean? This kind of messed me up, bro. They're gonna sue you for millions of dollars that you don't even have yet because you're still starting. So, with a fear of all of that, please tell us how are you able to say, yo, you know what? I'm gonna put this fear to the side. You know what I mean? I'm gonna roll this dice. I'm gonna get in here. Not just that. How the hell? How did you even bypass the whole FDA thing, man? The whole food. Tell us about that experience.
So this is all part of the process, man. There's all these different kind of hoops and hurdles you got to get through. So of course you got to set up a business, right? And then you're talking about form, what tax form you're going to take, and that's just internal, what your business stands on. Then the next level was okay, I want to make a product. What kind of certifications do I need? You mentioned FDA and all that. If I'm making a meat product or my product's got meat in it, that's a whole another complicated structure because I got to have FDA fully involved because it's meat based. So I don't have meat in mind. So I get to bypass all of that. But the FDA still needs to know that your packaging is safe for the consumer. So being frozen, it's a vacuum, it's a sealed product, I'm good to go. But when I was doing sauces, I had to create something called a HACCP plan. And a HACCP plan is basically a food safety plan. How do you manage your inventory? How do you bottle your sauces to make sure that they're shelf stable? And so these are all either federal or state regulations that you kind of go through to get your product to get your product ready. And it's funny, when I first started out, I was naive, right? So my thought was, all right, I'm gonna make this sauce, I'm gonna bottle it, bang. I'm gonna go to the store, talk to the manager and be like, hey, you wanna carry this sauce? They'll tell me yay or nay, good to go. But that works on a really small level, like your mom and pops, right? Mm-hmm. But your Whole Foods it took me 2 years to get into Whole Foods. I had 3 different presentations over the course of and I've talked to those guys multiple times because international chain, they're corporate, and so you got to go through so many levels to get to someone to say you're approved, and that's not even once you're approved, that's almost just a start because then you got to manage each store at an individual level and all kinds of stuff. So I did the best I could in the beginning to kind of list everything that I have to do to get my product ready to market. Because I made a lot of mistakes along the way that I kind of found out later on, whether it's, my label didn't have enough information on it. My expiration, I got to put expiration dates on them or anything like that to get it market ready. Because once you get it market ready, you kind of that becomes step 2. Okay, now that it's market ready, now I got to manage who I'm pitching to, what they want and the pricing and all that stuff. And so to kind of come full circle, what I like to do now is I like to help other people who are trying to start a business to get it market ready. Because like I said, I went through so many steps to get there and I did all this, research and just trial and error. I can definitely help someone say, all right, this is what you should be looking at. Let's sit down and go over step by step what you should be doing depending on your product to get it to the point where it's market ready.
You're saying that if somebody wants to get into this market of mac and cheese, and not just mac and cheese, pastries, for example, or cookies, stuff like that, they could definitely hit you up to get, that blueprint on how to, go about this. Definitely.
Yeah, sure.
That's what Stuck in the Middle is all about. Tap into this resource, make it work for you. You don't have to go do the research because you got the people who are already doing the research, right? Who are already doing it, who already know, the people to contact and all that, make do of this resource. Exactly. What else can you ask for? But with that said, man, can you please tell us what the perfect mac and cheese is? For those who don't know, like us, what is the perfect mac and cheese? What should we look for?
So you want the creamy, right? You want that's cheesy and creamy. Because I've had some mac and cheeses in the day that just tastes like boiled noodles and a little bit of cheese sprinkled on top. And that is not mac and cheese. That's pasta and cheese. It's different. It's the same, but it's different, but it's the same. So, because you want to be able to stick your fork in it, and you want to be able to see the cheese strings, like the cheese pull. You want to be able to. It's a feeling. I almost can't describe it. When you eat it, it's comforting. That's why it's called soul food. And it's got to have a little flavor to it, right? Like I had a little bit of seasoning to mine just to give it a little something extra. It tastes like, it should just put you in a comforting position, right? Once you eat it. It shouldn't be sweet. Shouldn't be sour, nothing like that. It just tastes like how when you bite into that real good slice of pizza and it just makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of feeling you should get with mac and cheese. That kind of thing, and the thing is, like, mac and cheese is such a personal item for so many people, right? They grew up on it. So they'll say, my mom, my grandma, my grandpa made the best mac and cheese, And I respect that too, because there's different ways you can make it, different combinations of cheeses, right? But they all have the same concept that they make you feel good. And that's what you want in your mac.
Yeah. For the people who don't really, for the people who get this whole mac and cheese thing wrong, man, what do you say to them? Like, what's one thing people get wrong about mac and cheese? Let me just put it that way.
A lot of people, some people, I know they'll boil the noodles, and then they'll just go ahead, put those in a pan, just throw a bunch of cheese at it and bake it. And that's like the starter mac and cheese, right? It'll get you close, but not there. You gotta have the milk, the cream, a little bit of butter, a little bit of egg to keep it, you can add egg to keep it all together. It's like, and I keep going back to pizza. It's like telling someone, yo, buy some pizza dough, throw some tomato sauce on it, sprinkle some cheese, put it in the oven. I mean, yeah, it's pizza, but it's not as good as saying, like, you need to add like a different kind of cheeses, a little bit of oregano, a little bit of pepper, throw some toppings on there too, put that in the oven, then that's a pizza. And I'm no pizza expert, but I've had, like everyone else, had my ranges of like real bad and real damn good. So it's, for people that are trying to make mac, you can go online. There's a million different recipes. You want the recipe that's got the most variety of cheeses, and it's like and a little bit of seasoning too. Don't go with the recipe that has like 3 items, like it'll say like noodles, cheese, milk. Nah, it's not gonna be good for you. It's gonna taste bland, And so, and that's the cool thing about mac and cheese, is there's so many cheese varieties out there. You can combine different types, and it's still gonna be good,
Yeah. COVID times, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of businesses, closed down, or a lot of restaurants closed down. People were looking to the grocery stores, for survival. A lot of packaged foods, I'm guessing, people bought a lot of packaged foods, from the shelves. Did Myles, see a profit, within this period? Did they see a loss within this period? What was something that this period taught you, that coming, going out of it or going into phase 2 of it, you're going to implement or learn some more? Speak to us a little bit about how COVID, impacted Myles.
Yeah, so I kind of alluded to it before with the whole isolation thing. So COVID put me at home, right, just like everyone else. So it gave me a lot of time to say, okay, let me check on the status of the business and the health of it, see like what I can do next. Because the one thing you don't want to do is, which I actually posted a video about on YouTube not too long ago, is you can't tread water. Whether that's in business or your job or your school, whatever you're doing, because you might take that first step towards the goal, right? You go, okay, I did that, cool, congratulations, and then you kind of plateau, and you might get comfortable with that. The only problem with treading water is that you're still going to get tired, but you're not going anywhere. So when COVID happened, it kind of let me kind of evaluate everything I was doing and say, all right, what can I do next? How can I get to that next level? Because I'm a frozen product, I did see an increase in demand because everyone was getting frozen stuff, at least for the first month or so. Then after that, I think the panic kind of subsided a bit. And so I kind of leveled off, right? And that's when I said, all right, this isn't a good spot to be in. What I got to do next to get to the next level, what I started doing, and we're launching next week, is offering our mac and cheese on delivery apps, Grubhub, Uber Eats, and all that, but we're adding toppings to it. So for instance, you can buy mac and cheese, or pick up pickled jalapenos and French fries on it, and that's a meal. And so this is a concept I've actually thought about over the past 6 to 9 months. But when COVID happened, I said, you know what, this is an opportunity to actually give it a shot because everyone's looking to buy via delivery platforms.
Mhm.
And I'm, and companies like me who've seen some impact because of COVID, we're all looking to transform in a certain way, right? Bring in another revenue stream, especially caterers. Caterers lost most of their business. A lot of caterers are saying, "Oh, maybe I should package my stuff now and get it so it's shelf ready." Or they're doing the whole delivery platform thing too. And so this is teaching a lot of us to make sure that it's almost like your resume, right? Your resume should be wide. I mean, it should have a lot of experiences on it in different types of areas. Just like a business should have multiple streams of income to keep you going in case one part of that goes down.
So how do you, like, a lot of people try to stay away from packaged processed food these days, right?
Yeah.
How do you differentiate yourself again? And this is that question I was forgetting from earlier. How do you really set yourself apart? Is it some symbol you have in, the package to say, you know what, this is homemade, not processed as my counterpart to the left or to the right?
Right. Yeah, that's actually, and that's comes to brand recognition. I'm going through that battle right now because it's such a crowded set. So as you walk down a frozen food aisle, you've got crazy amount of doors, and some of those doors are saturated by one company. So a person like me who says, let me bring in mine and let's say I got 3 different facings on one shelf, I'm surrounded by competition.
Mm-hmm.
So to your question is really relevant. And one of the most difficult questions for someone that's running a business is, how do I stand out? There's a couple ways you can do that. The one way a lot of folks do it is they go viral with a new type of product. So it's like a trend thing. So like the whole sparkling water thing, right? When that became really popular, the companies that were positioned already, they blew up because all of a sudden people were looking to them because that was the hot thing. Or you take a case like Halo Top, and I've actually studied a little bit of Halo Top just to see how they infiltrated the market. Their claim was the whole calorie deal. And so they figured out that there's a couple things that the consumer latches onto. So a consumer's buying decision needs to solve a problem. And one of the number one reasons for people buying products is weight loss. So Halo Top came and said, we're going to tell the consumer that we're actually less calories than any other ice cream they can buy. So consumers see that and say, oh man, I can eat this ice cream guilt-free and still hit my weight loss challenge or my whatever it is. Boom. Halo Top blew up. So for me, because number one, I'm not a viral product. Mac and cheese is not viral. It's stable it's been around forever. And mac and cheese is also, you're not going to sell a low calorie mac and cheese. It doesn't really make sense. So now how else do I stand out? So I'm in a position now where it's got to be my packaging. What do I put on the packaging that lets people know this is a homemade mac and cheese? The competition is fake, right? And you've only got maybe 1.5 seconds to catch someone's eye when they're walking down the grocery store. So I just went through a design change and I haven't printed it yet. That's got a real image of mac and cheese. Because so when you see it, your eye is going to automatically say, that looks good. You're going to pick up that box. When you got the box in your hand, it's like, okay, why would I buy this over the other people? And then you might see on there something that says made with like gourmet cheese, which is what ours is made of. We get our cheese from a local creamery up in Delaware. So those kind of claims have a high impact because people are going to say, I want the best mac and cheese I can get right now. I don't want to settle. And if I can communicate that to the consumer, I got to sell.
Man, that is dope. In 2016, in closing, man, to close this episode, I cannot close it without, addressing this. In 2016, you made a move to DC, a city that's so hybrid, so vibrant, with its food, right, and its scents, man. What was the impact of this move on your life and career? What are the positives, negatives, whatever impact is in the first place?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was living in PA for a couple of years, like I said, I was working the engineering job. I was in grad school. This was like the plant and the seeds moment because I was just game planning. All right, when I get out of here, I'm gonna do X, Y, Z. Can't wait. Nothing bad about the area. It just wasn't my cup of tea, And I had a couple of friends living in DC, so every now and then I come down. And every time I came down, number one, I had a great meal. I love chicken and waffles. That's my crush. And so I would get chicken and waffles every time I came to DC. And I was like, man, and just the vibe of the city, the push for food entrepreneurship. I said, yeah, it just feels right, And I decided, you know what, like you said, 2016, I'm going to make that move and I'm going to bring 8 Miles with me and grow it there. And right away, I felt like I had opportunity here. The DC environment, they support local, like they really stress local products. And there's a lot of people that got your back and want to help you succeed around here. And there's so many different stores and a lot of people that I can talk to in DC to kind of help me. And so it was a good match because it really allowed me to kind of spread my wings, and it kind of transformed this from a hobby to a business. Because the hobby was just I was making sauce every now and then and selling it to 1 or 2 local stores or friends of mine or online. Transformed into a business once I started dealing with like the Whole Foods, the Streets Market, the corporate chains and things like that, which is where we're at now. So yeah, I mean, DC is a great market to grow your business. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, man. Lastly, we hear a lot about supporting Black businesses, supporting little businesses, but a lot about Black businesses, right? And with our time, with current times right now, inclusion, diversity is a big push right now. It's very important, right? What are your thoughts to this, and how is 8 Miles, your company, being that as a small, business, Black business, what's its part right now, its role, in this cultural shift?
Yeah, for sure. And it's wild because I don't think people realize how many minority-owned, Black-owned businesses exist. I mean, there's a lot, and a lot of times we aren't privy to the same information or resources that others are, and so we start off at a disadvantage. And I'm actually, what I decided to do is I want to go back to the roots. I'm looking to team up with a school that's in maybe a low-income neighborhood, or just a predominantly minority or African-American populace within the school. And I want to teach these kids entrepreneurship. I want them to be exposed to these other options they may not even know existed. As a kid, you may not know I've got this thing I love doing, whether it's making something or making a food item, making whatever it is. They may not know that one day that could be transformed into a business they run themselves, and they kind of control their own future with that. And so I want to be a mentor for some of these kids, and show them this path as well. And then from going up in age to like high school, college, there's a lot of kids that probably will say, I want to start a business, but I do not know how. I'm not learning that in my education. I've got this thing that I make, but I don't know what to do with it. That's where I want to be able to help them out too. So it's a call to action for others who need that assistance. Like, I want to be there for them. We're not a multi-million-dollar company, but we've got those dreams and we've got the building blocks to get there. And so I can help someone kind of at least start the path. And at the same time, it's always good to have other people that are doing the same thing as you, because you can bounce ideas off each other. And that feedback is really important. So that's what 8 Miles is doing now. That'll probably change over time, especially as the business grows. I can do more, but that's what I want to start with.
Gotcha, man. Is there something that we haven't covered in this episode that you would like for the people to know?
Yeah, don't be afraid of failure, because so when I went on the Food Network, like I said, I didn't do good. I got kicked out the first round, but that failure kind of gave me the kick that I needed to push it further, right? I said, you know what, I didn't do good, but that's the space I want to be in. Majority of the time I go to a store, especially in the beginning, and say, hey, do you want to carry my sauce? Do you want to carry my mac and cheese? They don't say no, but they'll say email me, and then you don't get a response. And so there's a lot of closed doors out there when you're doing something like this from a small standpoint. But you got to kind of channel that failure, and say, okay, I'm going to learn from that, and I'm going to get better, and I'm going to get better, and I'm going to come back at them with something even better, or negotiate or something like that. So I just say, don't be discouraged from any kind of setbacks.
Man, that is big, because we live in a world now where people are scared of rejection, right? They've been scared to, take that first step. Like they say, closed mouths don't get fed. Like, if you don't ask, how would you know? Right. So
exactly.
Appreciate you driving that notion, man. Like, don't be scared. Just ask. The worst that could happen is somebody saying no, and you go and ask again, right? Just keep knocking.
Exactly.
Yeah. How can people reach you, man? How can people connect with you?
Sure, yeah. So my email address is miles@8miles.com. That's MYLES at the number 8, MYLES.com. Um, Feel free to shoot me an email. I'm one of those dudes where I'm checking my email 24 hours a day. We can connect that way. The website's 8miles.com. You can hit me up on Instagram at 8miles, at 8miles LLC. Really, yeah, I'm an open book, man. I'm just here to help others who are looking to kind of make that move into entrepreneurship too. And I'm open. You know what? At the same time, I'm not perfect, so I'm open to both suggestions and criticism and feedback. You know, because at the end of the day, the only thing it's going to do is help me grow.
Facts. This is facts. Man, you had the man. If you have questions on how he got his products to Whole Food and you would like to get your products to Whole Food as well, this is the person to hit up. You don't gotta go. You don't gotta go lift a 50-ton rock. You know, to try to find the information. It's right here. Make use of it. Bro, I appreciate you for your time. You know, I know we're supposed to record this yesterday, but we had to push this today. It's none of your business, but hey, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Hey, thank you again for your time, man. And
thank you, bro.
More good wishes to you and your business. You know what I mean? Just keep pushing, grinding and all that jazz, man. As you keep, launching your markets, man, feel free to come back, hit us up. Let's have these conversations. You know what I mean? Let's share your knowledge, to the masses and stuff. You know what I mean? So
no doubt.
Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it.
Hopefully, thank you for having me, bro.
Nah, no doubt. When I start eating mac and cheese, I'm definitely gonna try yours.
Yeah, exactly, man. Tell me what you think. I need to know.
For sure. Hey, if you've been watching and listening to Stuck in the Podcast, a platform for entrepreneurs, innovators, and creators of African descent. Hear stories, ideas, experience, and advice on breaking barriers in the mold. This episode was brought to you by our online store. Your support means a lot to us. Please visit sitmpodcast.com and shop Stuck in the Middle Podcast merch. Thank you all returning listeners and watchers. If it's your first time checking us out, welcome. Please, again, let us know what you think by hitting the subscribe button at the bottom to get ringers every week for every brand new episode we'll post. And also subscribe to all streaming platforms as well so you get weekly updates on every podcast we put out there. Follow my Banya podcast, Now You Know podcast, and Palm Wine Central podcast. All podcasts powered by Stuck in the Podcast. Thank you again, 8 Miles, for coming through, honoring our invitation. This was Stuck in the Podcast, and we are out.